We're living in a time when many of our fellow citizens are facing injustices, even threats to their lives, that nobody should ever have to deal with. If you're a black kid and you knock on the wrong door to meet a friend, you could be shot. That just is a fact. It just happened. And our guest today, Dr. Pamela Gurley, has something to say about that. So stay with us.
Welcome to Lean to the Left, home of no-holds-barred commentary, plus interviews with fascinating people. Some of them top experts, others simply with interesting stories to tell. You'll never know who'll show up at Lean to the Left. Now here's your host, Bob Gaddy.
Dr. Pamela Gurley is a content strategy expert, international speaker, world-renowned best-selling author, and journalist who understands the power of words, both verbal and written. As the founder, CEO of Clark and Hill Enterprise and IAMDRPGURLEY, and founder and president of the Brown Girl and Brown Boy Literacy Foundation, she's on a mission to empower, grow, transform, and motivate others, as well as lead and challenge social norms and false narratives. In 2021, she was awarded the Radio 1 Empower Her Empowering Motivation Award for her commitment to uplifting others. We're delighted to have Dr. Gurley as a contributing writer to our Lean to the Left blog site, something that evolved after she appeared as a guest on this podcast last year. She's a retired U.S. Army veteran, holds a BA in psychology, a master's in health service administration, and a doctorate in management. In November 2019, Dr. Gurley released her first book, I Am Not a Stereotype, I Am HER. And in March 2021, she released her second book, Black Girl Activist. That instantly became an Amazon bestseller. On June 3, 2021, she released the first books in her multilingual Brown Girl and Brown Boy children's book series. She has since published 5 additional titles, totaling 21 books, with 3 more on the way this spring. She has also been part of 3 anthologies, one with Dr. Gurley as a visionary author. Dr. Pam, thanks for being with us today on Lean to the Left. I understand there's new legislation in Florida and some other states that's particularly troubling. You want to talk about that?
Yes, thank you so much for having me back.
Well, I'm delighted.
It's always a joy.
I really am delighted, and I love that natural-looking blonde hair you have going on there.
But I will tell you, it's some of this stuff that's going on, which makes me really grateful to even be a writer for Lean to the Left and be here for the Lean to the Left podcast to have these discussions so that we can educate people on things that they need to know, particularly Florida, yet again, has struck again.
Yeah,
so now they're trying to propose Florida legislation, which is Senate Bill 1126 and House Bill 1539, that will prohibit citizens from recording with their phones law enforcement while they're working. I have so many feelings about this because it's okay for me to carry a weapon, but I cannot record with my phone.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it make sense.
You know what? It sounds like a blatant violation of the First Amendment. Do you agree with that?
I do. I feel like the First Amendment fundamentally is a part of our democracy that protects our rights to express ourselves freely, and that includes free speech, press, assembly, to even hold our governments accountable. That's one of our rights. And so for this law, if it gets passed, where does that go? I feel like that's one of the biggest ways that you start suppressing some of our freedoms, especially the First Amendment, because you take the right of us to be able to hold our government accountable. So I think it's important that we be able to defend certain freedoms that we have. And it's as if the House and the Senate don't realize that this is even a thing, for this to even be okay.
Yeah. Pam, Is this going on in other states besides Florida?
I've not seen it, but my concern is not it as a bill, not as a physical
Yeah,
bill that's being passed, not that I've seen. And maybe
yeah,
it's because Florida is such a hot spot for all the craziness that they are trying to do. But when it
right,
comes to, if this bill passes, I'm afraid that what might happen is that other states will follow suit. That's the
right.
biggest fear, that if this passes in Florida, who's to say North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, all of these hot zone states that have covered up things with police brutality.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. For example, the George Floyd incident, the person that videotaped that, if this bill was passed in his state, could go to jail for 5 years for shooting that video
Or be
and
fined.
or be fined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or probably both, depending on
Yes,
the
or
judge.
both. Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We all saw that video, and it struck a chord in people who care about people being treated fairly. We would not have seen that video. It wouldn't have existed if this law had passed. So the whole George Floyd thing, that consciousness that it struck in people, would have not have had the impact that it's had.
Correct. The other thing is, what I would love to really read this entire bill, because what will happen is, even if it was passed and somebody recorded and said it's worth being fined, it's worth me doing jail time, will it be admissible in court? So I'm no legal eagle, but I'm definitely not stupid when it comes to
Yeah,
politics. I've
yeah,
worked around for the federal government for a very long time, enough to know how to read law. I have to read it for my job, for what I was doing. And while I'm not an attorney, there are things that are admissible in court, but then there are things that can be upheld. So if somebody records and say, you know what, I can be fined, I'll do the jail
hmm,
time because it's the right thing to do as a citizen, and I am still upholding my First Amendment. So that's going to be that gray area anyway, because as soon as it goes to court, but now if an attorney sues and they win, will it still be admissible? That's going to be the thing.
yeah. Talking about court, this is witness intimidation at its highest point, I think.
Yes.
You're telling people you can't go do that, and if you do, you're going to go to jail. You say, some people might say, well, it's worth it, but now you've got a record. It affects your whole life. That one act of patriotism that you're trying to do, it affects your whole life.
It will, unless you get a good attorney, because you're still violating. Even though the law says one thing, you got another law that say you can do it. It's your First Amendment to hold the government accountable. I even think with witness intimidation. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, because this is what I laughed at whenever I look at this. When people say, "Oh, it's witness intimidation," and I've written about it and I talked about that. But what they have whistleblower laws in place, and they
Right,
have whistleblower protection laws. Isn't that the
right.
same thing? If I'm recording and I'm sending this in because I am saying this person overstepped their boundaries of what their duties were, am I not then a whistleblower? Do I not have whistleblower laws to protect me?
That's a really good point. It really is. And it seems to me that when a video is filmed like that by a bystander, chances are, if the cops are doing the right thing, that they can be protected by that. So it's not all bad for the cops to have, unless they're doing something that's they shouldn't be doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for those cases, there are some really good law enforcement officers out there. And then there are some bad apples. But I think that, for example, body cameras. So it's okay for them to record themselves, but we can't record them. Wouldn't it be filming the same exact thing? So now, but if they turn off their body cameras, then do they have something to hide? So you would think that if I was a police officer and somebody is recording me, I would want to be able to have that in court to say that's not what happened. Because if a community of people can come out and say, this cop did this, that, or the other, but there's video showing the opposite, it helps their case.
Yeah. Pam, do you feel like these proposals are simply prompted by racism and the racist attitudes of certain lawmakers?
In Florida, absolutely. In Mississippi, absolutely. In Tennessee, absolutely. And I say that because if you look at some of the laws and some of the things that they are saying in those southern states, it's like you think you're watching something from the 1940s and 50s and 60s oh gosh, it's just, it burns me up because they're having conversations about wanting to have where lynching should be made legal again. Are we serious? It's 2023. We should not have to take 2 steps forward and take 15 steps back. But that's what's happening every time laws like this come to par or even make it to the Hill. So I absolutely do feel that there is racial attitude that is preempting these laws to even to be proposed.
Yeah. Pam, in your life as an African American woman, have you had incidents where you have been treated wrongly by the authorities in a way that perhaps I might not be as a white man?
Thankfully, no. I've not had to endure that. I actually started my federal career working with law enforcement officers. I worked for ATF when I first came into the government. So I got to see at a training academy. So I got to see how they train. I got to see the material that they trained on and practice and run their exercises. So I got to see behind the scenes, and there was some very remarkable people who upheld their duties. And they don't train to cause citizens harm.
What did you do at ATF?
I was at the time went from being a management analyst, which I was doing instruction. So I was going through all of their training materials, updating it and cleaning it up. And then I switched over and did budgeting. So then I became a budget analyst for ATF at the training academy.
Your bio says you were in the military.
Yes.
What did you do then?
Oh, I was a medic. I was an Army medic. I've just done so much. So yes, I was an Army medic. I worked in a hospital and pediatric clinic.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How about that? Man, I'll tell you, you've had quite the career.
I have.
You're only 25 years old.
Yeah, I wish. What is so funny is that it's being able to be so versatile. So I would say when I was my first job, I was a lifeguard. That was interesting because that was honestly, being a lifeguard was my first encounter with racism.
Oh, wow.
I was a lifeguard and I was in Buckhead, Georgia, and I was working at the YMCA, and there was this lifeguard that was there he was homosexual, and he told the supervisor there that he wasn't comfortable working with me, but it was not my work ethic, or because we didn't really work together, we switched shifts. But when it wasn't my work ethic or anything like that, he just didn't feel comfortable because I was wearing a 2-piece lifeguard swimsuit. He was white, he was chunky, and he always took issues that I had. I've always been very petite, but that was my first run in with racism. And I filed an EO complaint, and I had to drop it because I went in the military and you can't have any open cases when you're joining. So I was like, but that was still like an eye opener. Was like, wow, this is different. I never encountered that. And growing up a military brat, you would think you would, but never like that. Not so blatant anyhow.
How old were you then?
I was, 20. I was
Okay.
like 20 or 21 years old.
Okay, so you filed a complaint with the
Yes.
government?
No, this was with the YMCA. I had an attorney. I went to an attorney to file an EEO complaint.
You didn't take any prisoners, did you?
I never have, and I still don't.
20 years old, she's taking the people to court.
And it didn't even get to that because I already had just talked to an EEO attorney because the fact that you will be told that it's not your work ethic or your job or my job performance. That's what they said. It wasn't my work ethic or my job performance. I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor. What was I really doing other than sitting there? And I had the boring shift. I had to be at work by 6 a.m. and I worked until 1 o'clock. Nobody in Buckhead other than old, rich white people and wealthy people were coming there. So, who was I really like offending? Yes. So it was very interesting.
All right, so walk us through. So you were in the military.
Yeah. I joined the military.
Yeah, in the Army.
Yes.
And you were there for how long?
Just 2 years, and I had a medical retirement. And then I went to school for psychology, and I stayed in that field until I went to the ATF.
Okay. So what'd you do after ATF?
I stayed in budget for 14 years, government budget and finance. And I went from a GS-9 when I first started and resigned as a GS-15.
Oh, GS-15. Well,
yes.
They make pretty good money, right?
They do. Absolutely.
So what'd you do after you ditched your GS-15 cushy job?
I wish it was cushy. I was going to the Hill a lot, defending government budgets for my agency. I actually became a content writer.
Wait a minute. You went to the Hill a lot. You were defending government budgets.
Yes, for my agency.
You were testifying before committees?
No, we just had meetings with personnel there, meetings with OMB and all of that stuff at the Hill.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I had to write stuff that would roll up into the president's budget, but the agency that I was at had bypass authority, which means we can go directly to the Hill and request money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine. All right. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you there. What did you do what happened after ATF? Then what?
ATF, I stayed government in the same field for 14 years. And I actually recently resigned November 20th to work 100% for myself. I own a content writing company and publishing house. So that's what I do now. I'm a full-time writer. Love it. That's how I'm able to write for you.
Yeah. Publishing house. So you're publishing your own books?
Yes.
Do you publish other people's books?
Absolutely not, but I do teach them how to self-publish.
Oh,
I don't want to have to write royalty checks. I don't want to have to be doing that. So I do have where I help self-publishers publish their own books from start to finish.
Okay. I will be in touch with you when I get mine ready to go.
Yes.
Because I had a total... We won't go there. I was just going to say, since I started, I'll just say that I had a total flop. A friend of mine and I, one of the guys that writes for Lean to the Left, Chris Waldron, and I did 2 volumes called Hijacked Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness.
Wow.
And it's a great title.
It is.
And it was filled. There were 2 volumes, a total of 500 plus pages altogether, that were basically blogs from our Lean to the Left. Then it was called Not Fake News, blog site, but I had a terrible time with it because what I did not know, I went through Amazon to publish it, and they would not allow me to use their advertising to advertise it. Why? Because Donald Trump's picture was on the cover, and his name was on the cover, and they said that was too political in the middle of a presidential campaign. And my response was, all right, so if it was Baldacci, you would have done the same thing. You wouldn't let him. Sure. Yeah. So anyway, I got screwed on that, spent a whole ton of money, a lot of time putting that together, and then we couldn't advertise it on Amazon.
Oh,
And
wow.
it just frosted me no end. Anyway, you guys don't want to hear about that. I'm going to tell you anyway. All right, so what else do I want to know? Now, these bills that you're talking about from Florida, and you know what? DeSantis just come out with a new presidential ad. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see that one yet.
Oh,
I
it's
tried to
really,
just him
I'll
is
tell you what, it's awful, but it closes with the line, "We do not back down." That's his tagline.
that says a lot.
Yeah, how about that?
That says a
And
lot.
yeah, I think that's also the topic of another blog if I get around to writing it. Because that's all coming at it right at this time when all these people are getting shot and killed by going to people's houses looking for their friends or whatever. Three
Siblings.
incidents, three
Siblings.
incidents, yes,
Mhm.
3 incidents in the last couple of weeks where this has occurred. And it's all stand your ground excuses from these people that are doing the shooting. Just incredible. So just hang on for a second. I'll be right back to talk about stand your ground after this quick message.
I think stand your ground is a scapegoat. And let's just say, I guess if anybody is tuning in, what the stand your ground laws are not everywhere. So some people might not really understand what that means. But basically, it's just saying under certain circumstances that you can use the use of force is legal, basically, without if you feel threatened. And you don't have to run, you can literally just react.
Yeah, basically, if you feel threatened by the individual, you have a right to shoot them and kill them.
They say you have a right to defend yourself if you feel like you're in danger. Doesn't have to be shoot because people can beat somebody to death. But
well, that's true.
Yes, or you can stab somebody, or so that's why I just want to be very clear that the preemptive word is danger. And I think we need to define what danger really means, because people say, I was in danger of my life. The situation with Ralph Ural is a good example. He rang a doorbell at the wrong address. The guy just opened up the door and shot. He said he felt like he was in danger.
Right.
How? You got to define what danger mean to somebody.
Hey, you guys that are listening, Pam has written a really good piece that I'm publishing on Lean to the Left. It'll be published at the same time that this streams. If you would like to see that, just go to leantotheleft.net and click on the blog tab at the top, and you'll find that blog. It's a really good piece. That's what prompted me to invite her to be on this show with me today. Pam, before we close this up, talk to me a little bit about your books. And this is your shot to a little shameless promotion.
Yes.
So go for it.
All righty. So I have a multilingual children's book series that's made for children anywhere from 5 to 12, although they're made for babies. I think when it comes to literacy, there is no age. There's a wide range of characters, although the characters on the front, they're titled Brown Girl and Brown Boy, but it has more to do with just by names that I didn't want to provide names for the kids. But there's psychosocial and social emotional books for predominantly Black and brown children so that they can see themselves, because let's face it, when I was growing up, I didn't have many people in books that look like me. And I think it is vital and important that we can cultivate the stories that they can resonate with, especially from a cultural standpoint. But I also think that it's really a tool for all children to recognize that we are all different, and we should accept that we are all different. So like my first book was Be Social, is teaching children how to be social with one another, even though they don't look alike. So I have one on manners. I have one on wellness. I have one about hobbies. I write things that I feel like I wish I had when I was growing up. So I have a new one that's coming, a new title that's coming out this spring. Don't have a name yet. I
Well,
find
how
myself,
could we promote it if you don't
well,
have a...
because I have five other ones that's out there. That I also have my kids red carpet book tour and literacy festival kicking off May 13th in Jackson, Mississippi. I partnered with the Bean Path, which is a tech company organization out there that is doing some amazing things. I have another tour that's coming up the same kids red carpet in Memphis, Tennessee on July 29th. You can catch me. I'll be speaking in lots of different places in Wisconsin and Ohio. But if you follow me at IAMDRPGURLEY, I am drpgurley.com, or you can follow me on all social media. I am Dr. P. Gurley. You can literally stay in the know with everything that I have going and support everything that I do.
That just sounds like an awesome thing. And I got to tell you what, I got to take some lessons from this young woman because she's really got it together for sure.
Look, lots of years. I proudly say if I could speak to my 25-year-old self, I'm not going to say 15 because I feel like we don't really truly mature until 30. It's like something clicks in 30 and then something clicks at 40. Yes, I'm over 40. Y'all, that
Oh man,
changes.
I'm telling you guys, if you're listening to this, you can't tell, but this woman looks like she's about 25. So
I am not. And you know what I love though is that when people think that I'm younger and then I open my mouth, they're like, oh my gosh, how old are you? I'm like, I am just a few years from celebrating being a half a century. So, yeah, I am proud to be like 47. I'm like, yes,
good for
47.
you,
Yes,
man.
proud. But that also resonates with the experience that I grew up before social media. I grew up
Right.
before the cameras. I grew up before a lot of this stuff that's affecting our kids. That didn't have it. I was literally, I'll just be quick with this. I was having a conversation earlier, and I was talking about how the kids these days can't possibly know what it feels like to be free to roam and do what you want. And because I was growing up in DC during the summer and the spring breaks, and I was like 8 and 9 years old. We're taking the metro by ourselves, going down to
Mm-hmm.
DC. No parents, no kind of
Mm-hmm.
parental guidance.
Right.
We only was told we had to be in the house before the lights came on, the street lights came on. Here's the
Okay.
unique thing: we didn't know that children that it was so much kidnapping going on and all of these things because there was no social media. It didn't pop on the news because even news outlets was not that regular even then. They post most
Sure.
local stuff. But then and I'm sure you'll remember this, but what it dawned on me was that how many kids were always on milk cartons then? You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And I
Oh
thought,
yeah.
and so while it wasn't visually in our face, it was in our face, and we had no idea that at any given time we could be on this milk carton.
Yeah. And for you guys that don't know what that is, that was when kids went missing and they put their picture on the milk cartons to try to find them. So I'm saying if your picture's on a milk carton, it's probably a pretty lost cause because you've been missing for a while.
Yes, but no, but I was just saying that for as a kid growing up, we didn't realize that kids were being kidnapped, and we weren't conscious of it because it wasn't constantly in our face. It wasn't on a
Yeah.
social media stream. It was simply on a milk carton. And even then, to us, we still live with this freedom, not realizing how terrible this world really was.
Yeah.
Ironic.
When you were talking about that, it struck me. Now, I'm considerably older than you're 47. Matter of fact, I will just acknowledge the fact that I turned 80 in January.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I'm a geezer.
Yeah.
I'm the definition of a geezer.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, when I was a kid, we used to hitchhike all over the place. And, and you go out and stand by the side of the road and put your thumb out, and somebody give you a ride. Where are you going? I'm going to see my girlfriend and blah, blah, blah. And they give you a ride, drop you off, and there you go. today, you hitchhike today, you're taking your life into your hands.
But not
If you
really.
pick up a hitchhiker, you're taking your life in your hands.
But you
For
know what?
crying out loud.
But now check this out. Is Uber and Lyft a form of hitchhiking? You're getting in a car with
Yeah,
a random stranger.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. When I went to Sarasota, Florida to see a couple baseball games this past spring, and we got in a big pissing match with the rental car people. Bottom line was there was this long line of about 50 people and only one person taking care of people, and it was dinner time, and we were not moving in this line, and my wife was not feeling well, and I said, okay, the hell with this, we'll get out of here, and we just Ubered the whole week we were there. We just took one Uber car after another, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But it crossed my mind at the time, what do I know about these people other than the fact that Uber vouches for them? But that's the only thing. And so, anyhow, it worked fine, and I'm here to tell a story. So, obviously, nothing bad happened.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it can be reversed too. I think for the protection of Uber and Lyft drivers, who are you picking up?
Yes, exactly right. Exactly. Who are you picking up?
Mm-hmm.
And many of the drivers that we had on this little episode were young women. And I'm going like, really? You're doing this? You're picking up these strange guys? Who knows? They're half drunk, some of them.
Yeah.
You don't know. Ooh. Anyway, so hopefully we don't have any bad stories to tell about Uber drivers. I don't yet. Anyway, so you're going to be publishing these next books when?
I'm hoping either end of May or June. I plan
Okay.
to finish writing. The weird part is I have covers for almost all of my books. I just have to have the writing done. I will say shamelessly, I got engaged at Christmas on Christmas Day.
Oh,
And I
congratulations for
thank you. So
that.
I've been full-fledged wedding planning. And so that's
Oh,
derailed. So normally on my free time, I write. Right
okay.
now on my free time, I'm wedding planning. So I can, because wedding, you never know what all goes into it, but there's a timing on getting all the contracts done to make sure that person's going to show up to your wedding.
So you're going to have a big wedding?
Not really big, maybe 100, 120 people.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, it's
It's going
small.
to be fancy.
I'm fancy. So
You're you're flashing that ring around. That's
thank
quite
you.
a ring you got there.
That's him. He decided to be flashy and fancy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but because I got engaged, so things have really slipped in for the books that I usually write.
All
Work
right,
first. And
all right. Is this your first time around on the marriage parade?
no, but on the wedding, on the actual, I've never ever had a wedding.
Oh, okay.
Never. I was the eloping.
How many times have you been married?
3.
Oh, this is number 4?
Hmm.
Oh my goodness gracious.
But this is like number 1 for me because before I did it for everybody else. I did it for all the wrong
Uh-huh.
reasons, and this
Uh-huh.
time I'm doing it for me.
Oh,
I'm
good for you.
actually having a wedding because, this, I don't feel the pressure from anybody. We've been together 9.5 years. Needless
Okay.
to say, and I've been divorced longer than that. So I
Right,
took a
right.
break before I dated again, and I'm happy. I'm happy with me. And then I wasn't. It's
Okay.
a lot of peer pressure when you're growing up there, and I'll take ownership at that. I put my education and career before my personal life. So that sat in the
Okay.
back seat. And so I didn't really listen to my heart like I am
Yeah.
now. So I'm having a
Yeah.
wedding of my dreams, and I just, with the person of my dreams, and I'm happy.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy. I'm happy for you.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's why I said the world knows. It's not like I'm like, oh no. I think that life experience, I would never take any of those back. I absolutely
right.
wouldn't. I think it's given me a greater a greater depth and look into what I've been able to overcome.
Okay.
Yes.
What have you overcome?
An extremely abusive relationship with a military officer, my last husband.
Oh.
Yeah. I had him arrested and everything. I was one of those women that was just looked out for him more than I looked out for myself, and went all the way. He basically lied to me anyway, lied about who he was, even on the marriage certificate. He had said he had never been married, didn't have kids, and 7 months into my marriage, and I resigned my job for the federal government at the time. That was the first time I did it. Moved to Germany to find out his whole life was a lie. And he was a military officer.
Oh my goodness.
So I've talked about all of this. So anybody you can't criticize anything that I've already put out into this world. But yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I went through that, and which is odd. And I'll tell you the irony of that is that prior to him, I was a domestic violence and child abuse prevention advocate. I did education for the military, for the Army.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you ended up being a victim.
Yeah.
Of what you were cautioning people to watch out for.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But now everything's cool.
Oh yeah, life is lovely.
You're getting ready to marry the guy of your dreams.
Yes.
And everything's going to be happy, and you're gonna write a book about happy times or something.
I write about happy stuff though. That's what my kids' books are for.
Good.
Yes.
Pam, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I never know whether to call you Pam or Dr. Pam.
Either.
Or Dr. Gurley or whatever you want to be called. I'll be happy to.
Pam is fine. I'm so down to earth and just, you know me.
All right, that's good. All right. Well, I will tell you guys, if you haven't seen her stuff on the Lean to the Left blog site, you should check it out. She usually writes once a month, generally around the first part of the month, although sometimes not, because we don't have deadlines at Lean to the Left. We probably would do better if we did, but we don't. And so we're just happy to be able to share her work with you guys. Thank you, Pam. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Always.
Now, just one more break. Stay tuned after that, and I'll be back with some closing comments. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you'll come back on a regular basis and check out our interviews with guests on topics that I hope you find interesting, entertaining, and enlightening. Our episodes stream weekly, every Monday. Let your friends know about this podcast and take a minute to subscribe. Just go to podcast.leantotheleft.net to subscribe, check out the upcoming interview schedule, and listen to all of our episodes. And follow us on social media. Facebook at the Lean to the Left Podcast, Twitter at Lean to the Left 1, Instagram at @BobGaddy_Lean to the Left, and TikTok at Lean to the Left. And you can watch the episodes at YouTube at Lean to the Left. And don't forget to visit our blog site, leantotheleft.net, where you'll find commentary on the news by some excellent writers with progressive perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member there, and of course, it's all free. Now, this is Bob Gaddy signing off for Lean to the Left. Thanks for sharing your time with us.